It's a great pleasure of mine to be doing this learning lab, to share my story, and especially to give you insights on how to grow, how to start, how to expand the different projects and businesses that you're working on. As we start, I wanted to first, for those of you who haven't been in my class or who don't know me, I want to tell you a bit about my background. My background, I think I'm fortunate to come from a family of entrepreneurs and social leaders from Guinea. And my grandfather was a governor. He was governor of 2 different regions in Guinea. And then he was jailed by the first president. If you were very smart, they could put you in jail, or if you had a lot of influence, they could put you in jail. So my grandfather was sent to jail for about 7 years before he came out. But that leadership existed in the family. My grandmother also was a very influential person. She was a fashionista. She was a miss, for those of you who know about beauty pageants. Some of the first beauty competitions that happened in Guinea, she won. Then my mom and my dad, my father started the first private clinic in Guinea. So he was a surgeon. He's still a surgeon. He's amongst the top 3 traumatologic surgeons in Guinea, and he's very good at what he does, very creative. And he and my mom, in the year 1990s, they started the first private clinic in Guinea at the time. There was no other, besides the government public hospitals, there was no private clinic at the time. My mom, who was a lawyer, she had studied law, so she ended up working for the government as a defense lawyer, I think, for civil rights. Yeah, she was defending civil rights. And when my parents got divorced, my mom married my stepfather, who was the head of the national police at the time. He and my mom both retired. She retired early, and then they went into business. So when they went into business, I saw my parents now go from being leaders in the public sector to starting from scratch, having to build a business from scratch. Both of them not having like entrepreneurial expertise or entrepreneurial experience. So because they were passionate about security and helping people, stay safe, they created a security company. And through that security company, they grew it over 4 years to be the leading security company in the country. And after that, my mom decided to go into agriculture, and she started one of the most successful commercial farms in Guinea. When I finished high school, my dad and my whole family expected me to be a doctor. So they expected for me to be a doctor just like my dad. So I got a scholarship after high school to go to Czech Republic to study medicine. And I went there without really knowing what I really wanted to do with my own life. And so for me, my family expected me to be a leader because we have leadership in the blood, right? So everyone was always putting pressure on me. You are the ambassador of the family. You need to do exactly like, better than what your parents have done. So I was even being called a doctor way before I went to medical school. When I arrived in Czech Republic, and I first had to learn the language, after learning the language, I had a friend with whom we were in the same class. And he was studying all the time. Like every single day he was studying for these medical exams. And he was even breaking his chairs. Like he was just studying all the time. And I thought to myself, if you need to break your chair for you to become a doctor, then I'm not meant to be a doctor. Like this is not for me at all. And so I decided that I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to help people improve themselves. I wanted to be a motivator. But when I talked about that to my father and to my parents, they told me, we don't know any coach in Guinea. Like there's no one who succeeded as a coach in Guinea. There's no one who succeeded as a psychologist in Guinea. You're never gonna get a job. And my father was so disappointed that he literally just cut me off, right? So I found myself on my own having to figure out, what I was gonna do with my life. By that time, I already had a daughter, and one of the biggest objectives that I had was that I wanted myself. I didn't want my family to take care of my child. I wanted to be able to take care of my child myself. And so all these things were creating a lot of confusion in my mind, because my parents were telling me, no, you have to follow this path or else we kick you out. And at the same time, I was very convinced that I wasn't going to be a doctor, and I couldn't make a lot of impact being a doctor. So I left I dropped out of the medical studies. I still had my scholarship. I went on to another school that was doing engineering. I stayed there for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I saw that I couldn't stay there, so I dropped out of that place as well. Immediately after, I dropped out of the second university. I told myself, let me just go to France, because there they speak French. And because they speak French, I can be able to learn about coaching, learn about personal development, maybe even do psychology. And then I can go back home, take care of my child. So I travel across Europe from Czech Republic to Belgium, and then from Belgium to France. And for a whole series of 4 or 5 months, I'm just failing. I stayed with some friends to whom I was telling them that I was going to write a book, and the book was going to be published for $1 million. And they were all making fun of me. They were, belittling my dreams. And so I was just going from failure to failure to failure to failure. I finally got a breakthrough where I applied for an institute of coaching in France, and this institute told me that they were going to take me, but I was too young and I didn't have enough experience. So I insisted and persisted, and this is another advice to you. When you really want something, even if someone tells you no, you have to keep asking. Here, I had no other choice, and I had failed everything else, so I told them, this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. I may not have the age, because I think I was 20 at the time. They say they take people who have finished university and are doing a transition between their jobs. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to persist. And they decided to interview me. They gave me 1-hour interview, and they asked me questions about my life and my goals. And because I had already been learning about self-development, coaching, and human psychology, I knew what I wanted to become. And I knew how to help people become that because of the different people I had met throughout my journey across Europe. Every single person I would meet, I would try to help them move forward from where they were. So it just fell together that they said, you know what? You're going to be the youngest coach of France. We're taking you on. All you need to do now is come and start school in a month. Now, I've gotten accepted by a school, and now I need to find a place to stay. Because all this time I was hopping from a family member to a friend, a family member to a friend, and I needed to find my own place to stay. Unfortunately, in France, if you're a foreign student, you need to have someone who someone who takes guarantee for you to say that, yes, I guarantee that if Chico doesn't pay his rent, I'll pay it for him. And I found no one who could do that for me. A week later, I found myself on the street. When I found myself on the street, it immediately felt like the biggest failure in my life, but at the same time, a relief. Because after getting on the street, if I was going to be picked up by the police, at least I would get a place to stay and I would get some food. But at the same time, I had no other choice. Like, I had tried everything and it didn't work. My mom gave me a call and I explained to her what happened, and 2 days later I was back in Guinea. When I came back to Guinea, everybody thought I was a failure. They're like, okay, Chico, failure will amount to nothing. And surprisingly, I went again a year later to Senegal and I dropped out again in business school. And that's when I decided I'm never going back to university because it was a waste of time for me. I said, I've lived my life, I've learned my lessons, now it's time to make something out of it. Immediately after, I got into entrepreneurship. So let me tell you what happened. I had failed so much that it was impossible for me to be afraid of failure. I was already clear in my head, let me just keep trying. If I keep trying, at some point, I'm going to make it happen. And I kept trying. So what happened? I moved to the farm where my mom had started this commercial business, and I saw that while she was there, things were working. While she wasn't there, nothing was working. And I was telling her, Mom, you can't continue working in an environment where when you're there, things are well. When you're not there, things are not good. You need to be able to be working in a fashion where when you're at work, it's working. When you're not there, it's still working. She's like, oh, these people, even if you control them, when you're not here, they don't work. I'm like, no, you need to set up systems and you need to get your people motivated and driven in a manner where they work because they want to and not because they're going to get a paycheck from it. She said, all right, Chico, let's have an agreement. You will take care of the people and managing the people, and I'll focus on the agriculture. I said, okay. So I go back and I say, okay, I'm going to be farming on my own, like do my own little farming, but at the same time, I'm going to help my mom structure this business. And in that process, I helped her grow that business into one of the most successful commercial farms in the country because our people were driven and motivated. I was convincing them that if we work so hard and we work so well, the president himself is going to come. How can we produce bananas that the president can eat? How can we produce pineapples that will be exported across the world? How can we inspire other people to join us in agriculture? And these people, despite the fact that they had never gone to school, they believed it. They believed in the vision, they rallied together, and we focused for about 3 years and we built it. At some point, I saw the opportunity of integrating tourism and agriculture on the farm. And so I told my mom and my parents, I said, hey, let's do an agro-tourism retreat. They're like, agro what? We've never heard of something like that. This is a new idea. It probably will never work. And I told them, no, I'm going to try this out. I believe we can be able to get people to come to the farm, and not just for farming. They'll come to enjoy themselves, to relax. Because we had a beautiful environment, and they said, yeah, let's try it out. So I started that. A year and a half later, we built the agro-tourism retreat. We had tourists come from 40 different countries across the world, come and visit the farm. And that was my big success, right? Building that agro-tourism retreat proved to every single person around me that this guy is a winner. This guy, when he puts his mind to something, when he puts his thoughts to something, he can pull it through. While we were doing it, we had Peace Corps volunteers who were coming to the farm to do their trainings, but also they just enjoyed the environment. And so they were starting a project, and they said I should join them because they saw that what I was doing was social entrepreneurship. So we started the Dare to Innovate movement. The Dare to Innovate movement is a social entrepreneurship movement that engages young people to become active social and business leaders in their community. We were teaching these young people how to create businesses that will help the community. And so we started we created the first generation of social entrepreneurs in Guinea. By then, what was happening is that I had succeeded so much in my professional life after failing so much that my personal life was just going down the hill. I was already married. I had 2 children that I would barely see because their mother wanted to stay in the capital. I wanted to stay in the city. So our visions were not aligned. And at that time, I didn't know that when you're getting married, you should first marry someone who you're willing to die for and with whom you're willing to live and help them pursue their vision as well. So because our visions were apart, it was impossible for us to be able to build a very strong relationship or build a very strong family in the future. We had a very successful entrepreneurship movement going on, despite the challenges that were happening in the country, but I wasn't happy. That's the same year that the Yali program started, and I was selected for the Yali program. So I'm just going to take you through quickly what happened after Yali, right? Because I left Guinea, I went to Yali. After Yali, I went to IBM for an internship, and right after that, I decided to come to Kenya. I arrived here in October, end of October, with $100, and a promise by a Yali fellow and another young leader that I met here that we were going to build businesses together. So I came here, put all my hopes in these people, and when I came, one, the Yali fellow, he wasn't ready because he himself, his businesses were going through a lot of turmoil. The other guy, he was all over the media, had a great event coming up, an entrepreneurship event, and he invited me as one of the speakers. So I stayed with him, and our agreement was, I'll help you succeed this event, I'll help you grow your businesses, create a great culture in your company. You will introduce me to entrepreneurs and companies that need innovation and entrepreneurial training. He said, no problem, we can do this. But the guy, right after the event, he ditched me and asked me to go and find my own way in Nairobi. Every single time I was moving, I was telling myself, I'm getting closer to being at a place where, I'll be independent in Kenya. It was a very difficult time, like an extremely difficult time where I never thought in my life that I would live under $2 a day. But what happened was that because of my consistency and the fact that I had a vision. Now, if you listen to this story, you'll see there's a lot of similarities with what I went through in Europe. You see, there also I failed, but I persisted. Here also I failed, but I persisted. And in the path, I came to the Yali Center at some point where I said, you know what? I need to be giving back even though I have nothing to give. I need to be able to help the future of this continent even though I don't have the money or the resources to do so. What I can do is I can inspire young participants like you to make a better life for yourselves and to live a life of impact. So I came to the center, I met David, I volunteered my time. Not long after, Dartmouth needed TAs, teacher assistants. They brought me in cohort 3. We did the trainings with them, and they said, you know what? you qualify to be the lead trainer for the business and entrepreneurship track. And that's how I started at the center. That happened at a time where a week before I had turned myself in at the Kenyan immigration so that they can deport me back to my country. Things became so rough and so difficult that I decided, you know what, I'm going. I'm just going to go and turn myself in, and then they'll deport me. I went to turn myself in. They said they've never seen someone turn themselves in, so they don't know what to do with me. They told me to come back later. In the meantime, some friends got me a lawyer. The lawyer ripped me off. Then I got another lawyer who helped me legalize my situation. And then I said, you know what? Since I've come to this point and they themselves haven't deported me, I need to stay and I'll make the impact. Between the time I entered the center at the end of 2015, actually January 2016, I said to myself, you know what? This is not the time for me to start pursuing my entrepreneurial dreams. This is the time for me to settle down. I've gone so down into the ditch that it's not the moment to say, you know what? I need to start doing all the things I'm passionate about. And that's one advice I want to give you when you're running a startup or when you're starting a company. You first want to get to a stage where either you're putting all your heart into this business, that there's nothing else that you're going to do until, you know, the business works. If you're willing to sell your house, sell your clothes, sell your shoes so that you can make it work, or you have to focus where you are right now and use that time to build a brand for your future business. So what did I do? Before I started Chico's Barbecue and Love Foods, which I've sent, and the alumni, Martha is sending you all I've sent you the business model, I've sent you the financials so that you can see how I pitch this to investors and to partners. You have to first get to a certain level of stability. So if you're someone like me who already had children, you already have a family, you need to first stabilize that, because you can't be effective in your business if your family is not all right. So you first stabilize your family. Once you've stabilized your family, then you now start using the assets and the resources and networks that you've built in whatever activity you're in to build that dream or that new venture that you're going to. So for me, I had been training a cohort after cohort, design-driven entrepreneurship to my participants. And I was teaching them how to build businesses that are human-centered, that are built on the customer. What does the customer need? Who is your customer? How do you make them love your product? How do you understand in which environment they're in? How do you get them to be the advocates for your business? So it made sense that if I was learning this and I was helping each and every one of them who was telling me about their business frame their mind to that, I needed to take that same knowledge and put it into my business. But second thing, because I also had this network of participants who I knew were coming in and out every month or every 2 months, they're the ones who I was willing to test my product with. So when I came up with Chico's barbecue sauce, the love sauce, the romantic love sauce, the one that you should not eat with a hater, because if you do, you'll fall in love with them, I was testing my product with people who would be willing to buy it. So what did I do? I first made the sauce. How did the sauce came about? My wife was pregnant. She was at 6 months. She was in her last trimester and she couldn't cook. So I became the cook in the home and I loved it because that was a dream of mine, to be able to cook for my family, cook them breakfast, we eat as a family. So as I was cooking for them, especially ribs, I said, you know, God, I've been helping people grow their businesses, my mom, companies, my friends, entrepreneurs and all that. When are you going to give me my own product? You know, I want something that I can also build, that can be something that, you know, can help the whole world, that the whole world will love. And as I was turning the sauce around, I noticed, but this is a product. You know, this sauce is a product. And every single time I was making people taste it, they would come back for more. And I said, you know what, let me use the skills and knowledge I have to build a company that will transform the whole food industry. That's what you need to do when you're building a company. Your company needs to have a vision that is for the industry, not for yourself. I didn't build a company so I can be a billionaire. I will become a billionaire as a result of impacting 1 billion people's lives. I wanted to build a company that was going to transform the whole food industry. So I started thinking, how can I transform the whole food industry? I said, I need to make people love the work they do within the food industry so that the food itself can give an experience to the consumer. How can you build a product that when someone eats it, they'll become happy? And in my case, how can you build a sauce that if someone eats it, they fall in love? So if you look at any business that you're building, you look at what is it that you have been given that you can bring to that business according to your life experience and all the things you've gone through to build it. So once I had the story, which was the love story, I said, now I need to build a business model. So my business model was what? I said, I can build a sauce, right? And the spices, I can sell them. But how are people going to taste the sauces if there's no food? So I need to have a food component, whereas I can get people to taste the food. But I didn't want a normal restaurant like everybody else. So I said, I'm going to create the first online restaurant in Kenya. We are the first online-only restaurant in Kenya that has no physical space at all where people can come to eat, and we deliver meals to people's homes. Now, that's another challenge that we had to overcome. But what did we do? Because we were giving a great experience to people and the taste was magnificent, they were the ones who were sharing their reviews on our Facebook page. So we go to the customer segment. In our case, we needed to find people who loved eating food, who loved adventure, who loved traveling, who loved being on the internet and sharing whatever they find on the internet. So where did we start? With our friends and with our family, and in my case, with my Yali participants, you guys. So I sponsored a meal here. I brought the food with one of my cohorts, and they ate, right? I made sure there was beef, there was pork, there was chicken, but all with the sauces, and people were tasting. At the same time, at my house, before I made the business public, before I came up with the branding and everything, I invited more than 150 people over 2-3 months to come to my house to eat for free. So once you define your customer segment, you need to build them into a community. You need to tell them that we exist for you guys. So if your customer segment is young women, let's say your business is about doing what is it called? Okay, let's say that you're a school, right? You're building a school. You need to tell the parents and the students of your school and who want to come to your school, who you've targeted, we are a family. We're going to be part of the education of your child until they die. We want to help them succeed and become the best leaders of the future. And it's not just the time that they're in our school. Even when they leave, we're going to be there to help them grow. So you need to build a community around your customers. Once you have customers, you build a community around them. Now, marketing and growth strategy. For us, it's word of mouth. That's the number one and most efficient way of doing marketing. I don't have $1 million to invest in this business yet. But before I do get to a stage where I can invest $1 million in marketing and be like Coca-Cola, like I'm ubiquitous, right? I have to be very creative in using the social media platforms I have for free in connecting with my consumers. If you go to our social media page at Chico, CHICOS Chico's Barbecue, CHICOS BBQ, you'll realize we never tell you buy food, we never tell you order now, we always tell you our love story. We always talk about love. We always talk about love, how we're in love with our community, we're in love with food, we're in love with meat, we love what we do, we love our team. And so each and every one of you have to be consistent in the message you're sending out to your customers and use these free mediums. Build a community around your customers using social media. We have another strategy, which is tastings. We go and put our food in people's mouths and we tell them, once you eat this, you will fall in love with whoever you ate it with. And surprisingly, if you watch our video, our testimonials, people love it. When we did the tasting here at the center, people literally took the sauce, went around looking for the person that they loved so that they can taste it with them. But don't forget, you need to have a great product. So you need to build a great product, but then around the product, you need to think of experience. I did an experiment with my daughters. They're 12 and 10. And I'm telling you, the future, the children of the future, they care more about the feeling that you give them than about the product themselves. The product will come second. But the feeling you give them, the experience you give them is what counts. So the consumer of the future is an experiential consumer, is a consumer who has choices, is a consumer who cares about how you make them feel and how you behave with them. What is the interaction they have? So for us, we said we're sharing love. We're not selling food, we're selling love, and we continue to share the love. We wanted to be a startup company like, what's it called, like a public company. So what we did is we fractured our shares that we're raising. We're raising $400,000, which is about 40 million Kenyan shillings. And we're raising it from 1,000 people, right? 1,000 of you. So all of you, Yali participants, people who are in the public, our customers, our partners, we said we want to raise money from them because the more people we have who invest in our company, the more people we have who want our company to succeed. And the more people we have who are advocating for our business to grow, right? So we decided to call them our love vestors. Rather than our investors, we call them our love vestors. And hopefully when you go through our business model and you're interested in investing in a fast-growing startup who we will make one of the most successful food companies on the planet, join us. You know, we're open. I've created, like I shared, different fragments of share options for Yali participants and different young people, because I know you would never get the opportunity to invest in a business like this if you're not, you know, an investor yourself, or if you don't have a lot of money to put up. Because that means that I myself, I have to talk to many different people to get them all to invest, rather than talking to 1, 2, or 3 who can give me a lump sum and then we continue. So that was my love story. That was my background. I know there's a lot of questions, and I want to give you that opportunity. But I want to say one last thing. We're going to be having the Yali Startup Academy every week. Every week on Wednesday, we'll have a podcast where I'll be taking your business models, your projects, your initiatives. You send it to me, I'll review it, I'll tear it apart, and then I'll share with you my thoughts. And everyone in the network will know what someone is doing. And just like I'm opening up my business to you, those of you who are interested in getting other Yali participants to invest in your business or to support your initiative, you will be able to share it with them. We'll give you 20-25 minutes to share your story with us, defend your business model. Everybody will have a copy of it. And just like I did with you guys, those who are interested will follow up and they'll support you. Thank you so much for being amazing leaders across the continent. I'm so happy that we have Africa Film Center who's here, and they're the ones who have sponsored this production. We're going to have a link that Microsoft through Tembile, who I send a big hug to. Thank you so much for supporting us. They're going to send you the link through their platform. But we're going to give you a video edited version that is done by Africa Film Center, who will be our big partner in making sure that we have great content that we're sharing with you. The alumni team, I must say, Martha, she's still here at 6:22. She's walking in my footsteps, because I'm generally the last person to leave the center everywhere and I'm here. But Lillian also is at home. She was with us. Thank you so much for putting this together. I am so grateful. This center has been a blessing to me to find, you know, another way of succeeding here in Kenya. And I thank you all so that we can succeed.